Tonight, a St. John's mother will be able to lay her daughter to rest thanks to support from the community.
All I'm asking you is to get on the ball and start taking care of these bodies. Put them to rest. Let them be at peace, because right now they're not.
Calls continue for the provincial government to do something to stop bodies from piling up in hospital freezers.
As these events escalate and de-escalate, it's critical that we're looking at resources.
Wildfire crews have Labrador under control for now, but the season's not over and there's more heat coming.
Aging at home. The province says it has a plan to help seniors do it.
We're introducing a greater number of supports to meet the needs of seniors.
I'll tell you more coming up on Here and Now.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Our top story tonight, a mother in St. John's has some relief today and a chance to properly say goodbye to her daughter. Last night we brought you the story of Janice Strickland, whose daughter's body is one of dozens in hospital freezer. She couldn't afford to properly lay her to rest, but after CBC ran her story, the community stepped in to help. Elizabeth Whitten reports.
It's a bittersweet day for Janice Strickland and her family. Her daughter Sarah died earlier this month, and for more than a week, her body has been here, one of dozens lying in a freezer at the Health Sciences Center. Strickland couldn't afford the $4,000 bill to cremate Sarah and was trying to get help from the government. Desperate to get Sarah's body out of cold storage, her family turned to fundraising. After CBC aired her story, more than $10,000 in donations poured in, enough for a full burial.
I was totally amazed to see the amount of people that had come together to help my family, my daughter, my husband, my boys. I want to thank each and every one of them for help. Thank you so much for helping us get my daughter to put her to a proper burial.
Strickland now believes she will be able to properly grieve her daughter's death.
Once I am able to lay her to rest and know that she's there, I'll be able to take a sigh, step back, look at what happened and what's gone wrong, and I'll be able to think about it and grieve on my own. I would love to just go somewhere where it's nice and quiet.
Strickland says a lack of help from the province made her situation worse. She should have been able to tap into $2,300 for income support, but when she spoke with government, she was told the online fundraiser made her ineligible. In March, CBC News first reported as many as 28 bodies were in the hospital freezer units. Minister of Children, Seniors and Social Development Paul Pike says his department is still working to deal with the problem. He says he's spoken with dozens of funeral home owners in the province, and he says he should have an update in the fall.
They have a lot of questions about whether, about the costing and what we're paying for funeral services and so on. And we certainly recognize that we need to make some changes. We fully recognize that the cost for funerals hasn't changed, from our perspective in a number of years.
He says they are looking at increasing the amount of money available to families, and his department has covered the cost of hundreds of funerals in the last few years. Pike refused to comment on Strickland's case. Meanwhile, PC health critic Barry Pettin says the government should be embarrassed.
No matter who you are in life, everyone deserves to be treated with some dignity. If they can't afford it, they can't just leave them in the freezer.
Strickland says she's glad her family is through this, but worries about families who have loved ones still in storage.
All I'm asking you is to get on the ball and start taking care of these bodies. Put them to rest. Let them be at peace, because right now they're not, and they need to be put to peace, at peace.
Elizabeth Whitten, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, as a result of that story, the Liberals are accusing the opposition of putting words in the Premier's mouth. They say the PC party included a fake quote from the Premier in a post on X. Now, this post appears to quote Premier Andrew Furey talking about spending money to sponsor a UK soccer team instead of helping people lay their loved ones to rest. It's a post the Liberals say is misleading and spreads harmful misinformation. Now, following that criticism and questions from CBC, the PC party posted an altered graphic, including the text, "Facts matter," but they have not removed the post with the fake quote. In other news, 2 people are dead and another is seriously injured as a result of a highway crash in central Newfoundland yesterday. Police say the crash happened near Hare Bay shortly after 10 o'clock yesterday morning. The single vehicle crash left a truck in flames in the middle of the roadway. A 62-year-old man and a 62-year-old woman died at the scene. The 52-year-old man who was driving the truck was taken to hospital in Gander with serious injuries. Police say the investigation into the crash is continuing. Well, St. John's City Councillor will be the face of the provincial Liberals in the upcoming Waterford Valley by-election. The party announced Jamie Korab has won the nomination. Korab is an Olympic gold medalist, among other things. He'll run to fill the seat vacated by Tom Osborne, who's retired. The PCs are holding their nomination vote tomorrow, and the NDP haven't opened nominations yet. And there's some positive news today on forest fires burning in western Labrador. 6 fires are out entirely, and the only fires left burning are considered under control. The provincial forest fire duty officer says that means some crews of firefighters can be sent home.
Our crews are going to head back to their respective districts, and they'll get a couple days rest, and they'll be ready to go for the next event on the island, because the fire weather indices are increasing on the island, and they're even forecasting to increase again in Labrador. So it's as these events escalate and de-escalate, it's critical that we're looking at resources and positioning our resources where they need to be best.
And we'll have more with the provincial forest fire duty officer, Jeff Motti, including his expectations for the rest of the forest fire season on the island. That's in about 15 minutes on Here and Now.
Yeah, it was certainly nice to see some of that cooler air up across parts of Labrador, but that is going to change over the next couple of days. We've certainly got some heat on the way, but we also have some showers on the way. That'll be thanks to this area of low pressure that's currently moving over Ontario. That will move in through tomorrow, but for now we're going to hang on to some of this nice weather, especially up across Labrador. That area of low pressure there just south of the island at the moment changed the winds today, bringing more easterly winds to parts of eastern Newfoundland, and that kind of dropped the temperatures this afternoon. And you can really see that on the radar. You can see when those winds shift through the day. And if we take a look at the temperatures, you can really see that as well. So we peaked at about 23 degrees in St. John's. Those winds this morning were out of the west. As soon as they dropped to easterly and even southeasterly down to about 20 degrees. But like I said, we are going to see the chance of some showers. Those will roll through Labrador as we get into tomorrow. Maybe the risk of some thunderstorms to the north there, but those showers will move across the island as we head into Friday. We'll get into all the details coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, 3 months after announcing it in the provincial budget, the government has revealed some details about a plan to ensure seniors get the health care they need. Here Now's Mark Quinn reports.
Health officials say seniors are telling them they want to stay in their homes for as long as possible, but many feel they're being forced to put up a sign like this in their front yard. Today, the health minister announced details of measures the provincial government hopes will keep seniors from having to move into institutions.
We as a government want you to stay at home. We want you to age in place. We don't want you to move out of your home, and even worse, move out of a community where a lot of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians have been their whole lives in small communities throughout this province, and they want to stay. And who are we to say, no, you have to leave? We want to help them stay.
The provincial government says it will spend $10 million on a series of measures it hopes will help people with low incomes achieve that. Measures such as a $400 annual grant for things like snow clearing or grocery delivery, a caregiver's benefit of $400 per month, and a $500 annual grant for seniors in coastal Labrador. The CEO of Seniors NL says it's a good start.
I think every big initiative starts somewhere, and I think this is a really good roadmap to get us to where we need to be with seniors.
But the NDP's leader says it's clearly not enough.
A drop in the bucket is better than nothing at all, but I think it doesn't come close to addressing the real issue of that seniors need to live those independent lives and to stay at home.
Dr. Pat Parfrey, one of the authors of the Health Accord, was at today's announcement. He says it's a good start, but he says the province will have to do a lot more as its senior population grows from about a quarter of the population to a third of the population. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, staying with health news, the first mental health and addictions minister in the province's history is responding to criticism about his new role. Premier Andrew Furey created the portfolio in a cabinet shuffle last week, placing it with Housing Minister John Abbott. The political opposition have criticized the move, saying it creates another layer of bureaucracy, and mental health advocates say the role may be better paired with the health department. Abbott says the role is more about resources than treatment.
If there is a dotted line between mental health and addictions and the formal acute healthcare system, would be that. We have a very strong acute care system. We are going to be opening up the new Mental Health and Addiction Center here in St. John's. That's going to be a game changer in its own right. But the community is still looking for more supports to keep people in the community. And what we know, what we've talked to with the federal government, is that we need more funding for community-based services to keep people in the community, in their homes, in their neighborhoods, and that's where my focus is going to be.
Well, some families of Mount Cashel victims say they're disappointed in a court decision which puts limits on the eligibility for compensation. Earlier this month, more than $100 million was awarded to hundreds of victims of abuse at the hands of Christian brothers, priests, and other religious leaders. But the families of 9 of those victims who have died aren't eligible for full compensation. They will get money for economic loss, but not for pain and suffering. Lawyers argued the law limiting compensation for victims who died shouldn't apply, but the court disagreed.
On average, they're probably half the claims, the monetary value of the claim survive. So this is one aspect of the claim for these 9 individuals. In the broader scheme of the insolvency, we're talking perhaps 1.2 to 1.5 million out of a $100 million insolvency. So it doesn't have an enormous impact on the case as a whole. However, clearly it does for these families.
Well, it's less than 2 weeks now until the 206th running of the Royal St. John's Regatta, and crews are squeezing in the last bit of training. This year's race is sponsored by the province and will feature a free concert on the eve of the regatta.
Things are well underway. Everybody's feeling good. Crews are on the water daily. They're on the ergs. They're working out. Everybody's feeling really positive. We've had a really great season, great June Day race, amazing time trials just a few weeks ago. So we're ready for August 7th. 75 crews are registered for Regatta Day, so it's a pretty standard year, and we're happy with that. And we've been doing our best to accommodate everybody on the water in the mornings, the lunchtimes, and the evenings. Spins have been going really well. So it's a mixture of ages. So we have U14, U16, U18, masters races, senior races. We have one crew this year rowing the men's half course, so looking forward to seeing that. PF Collins. So all in all, it's been a great year, and we're looking forward to Regatta Day. Regatta Eve has taken on a mind of its own. It really is. Thousands upon thousands of people walk the lake on Regatta Eve. They see friends that they haven't really seen in the best part of a year. More concessionaires are opening the night before. So yeah, we love Regatta Eve. It's basically a second Regatta Day for all intents and purposes. It's a big undertaking for us, but we enjoy it, and we're going to continue it to the best of our abilities. So this is the Confederation 75 Royal St. John's Regatta. It's 206 running. Our presenting sponsor is the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador, primarily the Celebrate NL division. So we've partnered with them this year. So just across the way from us, in the bandstand on Regatta Eve the 6th, starting at 5:30, we'll have a concert. We kick it off with the Salt Beef Junkies, great group of kids. An hour later, we'll do the Ennis Sisters. And then an hour after that, we'll do the Irish Descendants. And so it's going to be a great night. It's a free concert, of course, so people can come down, enjoy their Ziggies, enjoy their donuts, play some games of chance, and of course take in the music in the background.
Well, it's been called the UN of barber shops, and it now has a third location. The owners of 1949 Barber Shop have already created a sense of community in their existing 2 shops in St. John's, and now they're hoping to do the same in Conception Bay South.
Newfoundland has been like one of the best places that I have lived. You can't imagine, the people are so nice and welcoming. The support that we have received as a barbershop, and that's the same thing that we daily basis try also to give back to the community. The barbershop has a soccer team. We try to give back to the community. We realize most immigrants and like newcomers coming into the community, they needed a place that they will feel comfortable, integrate well, and settle. And then I'm an example of that. I was able to integrate into this community and settle seamlessly because I joined soccer team. The barbershop in itself, even though we cut hair, there are several other activities that we get ourselves in that help newcomers especially to settle and feel at home.
It's forecasting a high fire risk across all of Newfoundland and Labrador tomorrow.
While the fires in Labrador West are now under control, the risk on the island is increasing. More from the fire duty officer coming up.
It certainly doesn't take much to see things dry out. We've seen a lot of sunshine. There is some rain on the way, though, for parts of the province tomorrow and eventually Friday. I'll get into all of that coming up.
Another beautiful day in the neighborhood, Ashley. Just one after the other, sunshiny days. I love it.
Yeah, we've certainly seen lots of sunshine lately, which is nice. But that lack of rain, obviously not great either out there. Let's take a look at what's going on this afternoon as far as those temperatures are concerned. Well, let's start with how cold it was this morning, actually, because my goodness, through parts of Central, especially low-lying areas, it was 4 degrees in Badger this morning, 9 in Deer Lake. And even the risk of some frost. And that will be the story again tonight for those of you through Central. It's because we're seeing some clear skies and obviously some cooler temperatures. Now, up across Labrador, about 9 degrees this morning in Lab City. But if we take a look at what the temperatures were this afternoon, really climbed to about 20 degrees in Lab City, but Badger 26 degrees this afternoon. So after a chilly morning, you certainly recuperated quite nicely. But most areas, with the exception of Argentia, we're sitting above 20 degrees this afternoon. And even up across Labrador, 19 to 24 or even 25 degrees through the day. If we take a look at what's going on, we did see some cloud cover up across parts of Labrador. Generally quiet weather, though, for most of us. But again, that wind shift dropped those temperatures across the Avalon today quite dramatically. If we take a look at where we are sitting now, though, 20 degrees in St. John's, so it's still a beautiful evening, and about 25 or 26 degrees still in Gander and Badger as well. And even up across Labrador, still sitting between 17 and 18 degrees at the moment. Still a chance we might see a few scattered showers for southeastern portions of Labrador tonight, but as we head through the overnight, the trend, we should be clearing out, and that will be the story pretty much right across the board. You will start to see some cloud cover move in, though, by the morning hours for Lab West, as we see our next weather maker move in. But again, overnight tonight, temperatures dipping into the single digits for Lab City. Otherwise, between 13 or 12 or 13 degrees and about 16 towards the coast. And then across the island, very similar night to last night. Low-lying areas through Central may see those temperatures dip to the single digits. And again, the risk of some patchy frost. So if you have some frost-sensitive plants and you are in those low-lying areas, again tonight, make sure you take precaution there. Otherwise, again, between 10 to 13 degrees or even 14 or 15 towards the northern peninsula. Tomorrow, a beautiful day for most of us anyway across the island. Up across Labrador, we'll start to see those clouds on the increase by the time we get into the afternoon. That will be followed by some rain, some showers or rain. And then as we head towards the supper hour, we will see the chance of showers move towards central Labrador and then eventually the coast. Most of the island will stay dry through the day, but you will see those clouds on the increase, especially for the west coast and then through central as we head through the overnight. And eventually those showers will arrive by the time we get into Friday morning. Definitely much needed rain across the island. Areas like, for example, St. John's, we saw most of our rain. We've seen 62 millimeters of rain so far this month, but that all fell. Most of it fell in early July, so we haven't really seen too much of that. So tomorrow will be dry, but that rain will arrive by the time we get into Friday. Another beautiful day, really 22 to 26 degrees. Winds get a bit breezy in the evening, 20 kilometer per hour winds. And then, or brisk, I should say. And then through central, you're looking at temperatures between 20 to 26 degrees tomorrow. Again, very comfortable, not a whole lot of humidity in the atmosphere either. As we head towards the west coast, winds about 10 to 15 kilometers per hour, sunshine, temperatures in the low to mid 20s. Just a beautiful afternoon. Same thing for the northern peninsula. Southeastern Labrador, though, it is going to start to get hot. About 27 degrees for Cartwright, Mary's Harbour. That's the case as we head towards central areas of Labrador as well. Once those showers move through, the temperature may drop, but you should hover around 27 degrees again. We will see that heat move in as well for Lab West. That will be later in the week and into next week. I'll get into all of that in the long-range forecast.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Fire bans are back for some parts of the island. Areas under the jurisdiction of the St. John's Regional Fire Department, which includes St. John's, Mount Pearl and Paradise, have reinstated fire bans along with the town of CBS. And those fire bans will be in place for at least a week. In Labrador, though, some major progress on the wildfire situation. The fire ban there is still in place, but there are now only 2 fires burning and both are considered under control. Joining me now now with the latest on the fire safety situation in the province is Fire Duty Officer Jeff Motti. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
So crews must be pretty relieved to have the wildfires under control now. Can you explain what's happening in Labrador right now?
So in Fire 619 and 620, that area of the province, we've got 2 of those fires deemed under control. We declared 6 fires out the other day. So the incident management team is actively looking at the resources on that fire and is working to demobilize the crews that we don't need. So crews from New Brunswick will head back to New Brunswick so they can be reprofiled, get some rest, and maybe head out west to Western Canada because everything's active out that way. Our crews are going to head back to their respective districts and they'll get a couple days rest and they'll be ready to go for the next event on the island because the fire weather indices are increasing on the island. So, and they're even forecasting to increase again in Labrador. So it's as these events escalate and de-escalate, it's critical that we're looking at resources and positioning our resources where they need to be best in the province.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can you talk more about that? Because there is some hot weather in the forecast for the next week or so. Can you talk about how that will affect operations and how concerned are you that we could see new fires or that the fires that are burning could intensify?
Well, the 3 fires that are on the board right now are all under control, and those ones are not as concerning as the possibility of some new ones starting possibly on Friday. As I look out into the forecast, I'm seeing lightning in many parts of the island after a couple dry days. So definitely, that is of concern for me, seeing lightning in the forecast. If we got lightning in the forecast, really dry conditions, and we get a lot of rain, it's not as concerning. But if we don't have that level of rain or precipitation with the lightning, it can mean new fire starts.
Mm-hmm. And I mentioned that on the island, the fire ban has resumed for a few different areas: St. John's, Mount Pearl, Paradise, and CBS. And of course, for Labrador as well, that means no wood or charcoal burning appliances or open fires are allowed. What kind of fire risk is there in the province right now?
Well, right now it's elevated for sure today, and we just got the weather in at 1 o'clock today, and our new map got uploaded. And the fire on the island is elevated today, high and very high and moderate in many locations of the island. Lesser to the extent in Labrador, but with our data that we pulled from our weather stations at 1 o'clock today, coupled with forecasting information from Environment Canada and those sources, it's forecasting a high fire risk across all of Newfoundland and Labrador tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. I saw some aerial photos on Facebook of areas burned out by the wildfires in Labrador. Can you talk about the damage that's been done to forests there?
So it's interesting because we've got about 71,000 hectares burned to date, and that's a lot more than the 20-year average. In terms of those aerial photos, we'll put a public safety message out there. It's really critical that, while we're doing wildfire operations, we've got water bombers and helicopters in those areas, and that's a restricted airspace. So I would encourage people not to use drones near any active wildfires because, they could end up in trouble with Transport Canada.
Jeff Motti, it's nice to have some good news about the wildfire situation, to know that everything's under control, and let's hope it stays that way. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Well, a new documentary telling the stories of how people in coastal communities are tackling changing weather. That's coming up. Rising sea levels and changing weather in coastal communities are affecting the people who make a living on the water. Freelance reporter Layla Baudouin followed some of those people along Newfoundland's west coast and northern peninsula to see how they're adapting. She brings us a documentary this evening for the remainder of Here and Now called All Eyes on the Water.
Hello. Lucky it doesn't walk in front of them. I don't even know if I can get in there. Like I said, I'll be lucky enough to see it don't go to the harbor.
When I start drilling, our wharf's a lot higher, at least another couple feet, 3 feet. Well, lucky I never lost my traps out there in front of the shed. The wharf is getting washed up and down. Well, you can see here now, one of the traps all washing up on the wharf. This part of the wharf here is washing up and down, right? You can see all the gear moving, and only for those traps on there, the wharf will be washed away now. The lobster traps, 42-inch lobster pots. Look, still we lose it again. It's quite possible. Well, same thing as claps of thunder just now up and under because the water washing and hitting the floor, right? It's hard on the sheets too, because they older sheets. You don't know if this shit's gonna go whatever and get it right. Well, those traps there, there's 500 traps there. There's at least $20,000 worth of gear. So it wouldn't be a very good Christmas gift right now if that ends up getting washed away.
I think there should have been a lot of thought gone into this stuff long before now, because I mean we're at the 11th hour.
But I think it's a matter of time that we're going to get a really high tide around here.
We're coastal communities, a lot of us, so we're facing real challenges of coastal erosion in many of our communities.
Here in our neck of the woods, it is the sea that we are concerned about most.
It's all bad enough, but now we don't have power. Lights are all out and no heat in the house. It just seems like this the tide surges and everything is getting much worse.
I got some pictures here from last fall that floated up my dock here, up nearly getting close to the point where the restaurant's almost the same, as the ocean would be. So we had a big storm like that, and I was nervous about Fiona. I was watching it pretty close, on all the apps and stuff and wherever I could look online. And so I felt pretty confident that we weren't going to get too much here. But I am preparing for high tides. But for here, different than what happened in Port aux Basques, I wouldn't have the sea coming in and pulling out the ground, I would just have the rise and fall. But it would be a higher rise than it is now, but it should be slower. But I'm nervous about it, yes.
Well, if it continues at the rate that I think it's coming at now, that it'll only be a matter of time, and most of our fishing sheds along the waterfront will have to be moved, or else they'll be washed out to sea like what happened with Fiona on the southwest coast of Newfoundland. I was out there, I witnessed what happened out there in Rose Blanche and those places and Port aux Basques, and I mean, those are things that are coming, and our harbour is vulnerable too. My name is Tony Ryan. I'm a fisherman by trade, and I volunteer in a lot of organizations. I've been with the Harbour Authority since 1996 as chairperson, and I've been the mayor of Port Saunders since 1989. I've been on the water pretty much all my life, and in recent years we've noticed that, you know, it seems like the wind is constant. You know, when I started fishing back in the early 70s at, you know, what I do at the shrimp, I mean, there'd be days and days and days when you, at the end of it, you'd be praying for a blowy day, so you better get ashore to work at the gear. You don't have to pray for one now. Because most of the time when you're fishing, it's miserable and you should be ashore. Way more windy days. And higher wind, not just a windy day. The winds are higher. I mean, there's been winds here this past fall, you know, in the 70 knot range. Something that was, as far as in my time, was never heard tell of until the past year or so.
Climate change is in every topic. My name is Colleen Kennedy, and I'm from the town of North Point, where we're here right now. And I work as Executive Director for Grossmoor Cooperating Association that works for the benefit of parks and community, mainly around tourism, but also around community capacity and community development. You know, as you talk about tourism, I'm doing a project down as we're talking about tourism and tourism projects. You know, where are we going to put these projects? We're coastal communities, a lot of us, so we're facing real challenges of, you know, coastal erosion in many of our communities.
hopefully they come up with something, because, you know, as the waters is getting higher and the waves is getting higher, I mean, all down along the beach here, I mean, you know, slowly washing the beach out and is eventually wash the road. My name is George Plowman. I'm from Port Saunders, and I've lived most of my life in Port Saunders. I'm a fisherman for 30 years. My shed's just over there. My mom and dad lives right there. I grew up here all my life, and watched my uncle fish and neighbors, and there's just a passion that a lot of kids had and still have. A lot of guys moved away, but a lot of us stayed back and fished, and it's just something that's in our blood, I guess.
The fishery is the backbone of where we live, where I live, and where we live on this peninsula. And if there's a total collapse of the fishery, we are going to be in trouble.
Put up for security because of the weather, yeah. High tide coming and some bad forecast. So you hauled it up there before, now it's getting hauled a little bit more.
I mean, I think our government's going to have to step in and help relocate not only the sheds along the harbour, but I mean some of the houses that are in low-lying areas. At the time when they were built, the water was lots of water in the harbour. They were far enough away that they had nothing to worry about, but in those recent years, the tides have been rising so much that a lot of our houses, not only our fishing sheds, but the houses that are lying in our harbour are going to be in jeopardy of flooding and stuff like that.
We're seeing tides now that we haven't seen in a lot of years. And most of our roads now down around the waterfront have been built up over the years, you know, to prevent, you know, any washing out or whatever.
So a lot of these towns would have, you know, their water and sewer and municipal services going through under, you know, roads that are really vulnerable to, you know, wave surge and climate change. We're working with a group and talking to a group, AIM, who's working in Atlantic Canada to work with small communities on doing a plan that I guess government is going to need when you apply for infrastructure funding to take care of some of the infrastructure in your towns. Having our work done and be prepared and plan for as we move forward to move some of these services to safer waters, and as we move forward, you know, plan for a way of impact zones.
Well, we've seen it coming, yeah. Being a member of the Harbour Authority, we started back in 2000 with the height of our wharves. Boats were getting kind of up on the wharf, so in 2002 we built a new wharf, was the start of several new wharfs here in this harbour, and we raised the height of the wharf 1 metre higher than what it was normally. Well, I would say it's probably 18 inches, somewhere around there, a foot to 18 inches of high water since we started the construction of that new wharf in 2002. And as we saw in the past couple of previous years, when we had some storms and some high tides, the water was up on the wharfs, the older wharfs that we have in this harbour. I don't know what they are in other places, but from looking at this harbour here, the water has been up on the older wharfs.
See what it got to beat up?
Oh my God, yeah, you can see it, Layla. So they're making this higher because...
Yeah.
Why?
Because there's more water coming in over the wharf when it's high tide, and it just makes a lot of damage.
If we don't start moving sheds back, and if we don't start putting an extra height on the wharfs that are in our area, that those wharfs are all going to be underwater.
Yes, it would be sad to see them wash away. Yes, it would. There's fishing stages or wharves, sheds, whatever, that have been down on the waterfront for years and years, ever since I can remember. I mean, you know, I'm 57 years old. It's going to be sad to see them lose their sheds.
Yeah, it was water. This air was going up now.
I guess, you know, it'd be even worse if they lost everything that they had in there. guys with outboard motors, you know, stuff they use for fishing that they need, you know, when the spring of the year rolls around and he goes back fishing. They don't want to lose it because there's no insurance going to cover it. So I guess they do what they got to do to, you know, to trying to save what they got.
With all the crazy storms we've had, is a part of the reason why you're fixing now because of the weather?
There's a lot of reasons. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of reasons. The rocks let go in the front of this one and just washed in. So everybody along the shoreline here seems to be building up their wharfs higher, and it's because of, you know, the wind. When the wind blows, the waves is getting higher. I mean, it washes right up on the pavement here in some cases. Down where I'm at, so this year I built a new wharf there. I still got some work to do next year to close in my other shed there, but you know, you can't do it all in 1 year, of course. Whatever happens, you know, we gotta take it now and try to be prepared as much as we can be.
We've come up with those ideas ourselves whereby we wanted to get something done to help protect our coastline and the height of wharfs, stuff like that. We've done that on our own without help from anybody else.
details.
We had a coastal erosion project that we was working on for years before we got it. I guess we put a proposal forward, and engineers came and met with us, and we sat down and talked about what we were looking for as a municipality. We're not engineers. And in 2022, the funding was announced, and in 2023, we completed a large portion of our coastal area, the outer limits to the harbour, because if we hadn't done that, within the next year or so, we would have seen about $2 to $3 million worth of infrastructure out in the harbour.
I think, you have to start taking some responsibility to step up yourself and say, I have the biggest stake in this community or this region. I have the most to lose, so I have to get involved.
Colleen, the last time you and I spoke, I think was 2 years ago, we were here.
We were. We brought these 7 communities together. They've been working with this company to look at, their top 3 priorities around climate change. One of the top issues definitely was coastal erosion. And you have to come together and start looking at your neighbouring community and not look at them as the competitor for funding, but as the partner in funding. And that, we fix things together, we all work together and, fix the roof first if that's what's got to be fixed. And this, to me, is a perfect model for the province to look at. I don't know if it's taken away some of the fear, because, there's a lot can happen. We're still vulnerable. We still have to do the work. But I think that we're more ready to address some of the climate change issues ourselves that we couldn't before at all. This is where we live. Yeah, it's protected, but we also have a responsibility to protect it and to protect it in a way that reflects who we are.
We've seen a lot of changes, certainly this year. In the short time I've been grateful to be here at Port au Choix, a lot of people from this community really can speak very honestly about the impacts of climate change.
Tide's down now about a foot back compared to what it was.
From direct observation. And I think that's something very powerful and very beautiful that people here, all people, live really close to the land and to the sea and are noticing what's happening.
Well, the water is low, I could be working on that dock.
That's what we're doing. We're to a place where.
This is your first time?
First time at the grant.
Do you have electricity there? So it's 32 nights there blowing now, but it's going to be gusting 40 perhaps more.
What we need to do for the future to keep these communities as they are and try to protect them as best we can. Well, I think I consider our harbour one of the best in Newfoundland to start with. It's a deep water port. It's been very active for most of my life and before my time, involved in the fishery, the lobster fishery and the groundfish fishery, and still is active today. So I think that our harbour has great potential, and that I hope it continues.
This is like family. It's a part of who I am. We do have a responsibility to ourselves to make sure these communities are what we want them to be in 20 years.
always on the water. Here she is.
Good fishing, Tony? Good fishing?
Oh, yes, good fishing. Real good. When you stay like that.
You've been watching a documentary called All Eyes on the Water from freelance reporter Layla Baudouin, who's been tracking how some coastal communities on the island's west coast and northern peninsula are adapting to the changing climate. Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Hope you'll be back with us again tomorrow.